The past week has been more of a slumber party for Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency landscape. And in today's video, I want to continue with this week-long analysis that we've been having to open up this week, again, with a bit of a bounce. We definitely got that on Monday, Bitcoin bouncing all the way up to just under 109,000 bucks. And then we were saying, hey, look, Bitcoin, unlikely to break out or do anything super significant this week outside of the overall range. Be expecting a downside move after that. And that is what followed over the next one day. Well, I mean, you could also call it the next couple days, but Bitcoin has more or less been unchanged since that closure on Tuesday. Now, as we head into Friday, there is still a pretty good chance that Bitcoin is going to break this. I still think about the beginning of next week. I do think that today is probably going to be a range day overall. The price action pivot's getting the range here incredibly well. In fact, as we do see, the upside price action pivot is at 109 or that Monday high. And I could effectively say, look, as long as Bitcoin is below that 109 high, it's hard for me to be bullish here, looking for big bad moves to the upside, 120 plus and all these sort of amazing targets. But hey, if Bitcoin does even just trade above 109, and especially if it closes a daily dildo above that 109 Monday high, I would be happy to get massively fucking bullish for, well, 120 plus probably. Again, there would be stops along the way, obviously. But on the other side, we do see the price action pivot to the downside here at 102,750. If Bitcoin does start to trade below there, and especially close a daily below there, then, there's really, in my opinion, very little hopium, at least in the short and medium term. This is going to very likely evolve into a prolonged consolidation and correction lower. Again, I'm not saying that this is like turning around into a major massive bear market or anything like this, not yet at least, but first things first. On top of that, we are still witnessing Bitcoin work on what would effectively be a symmetrical triangle right here, which has an equal probability. It's like an equal opportunity pattern, it's the affirmative actions of patterns, but it has equal probability to break out to the upside and the downside. A small favor in terms of the overall trend, but at the end of the day, until we actually see it break, there's no real move to be made. However, it is really fucking close here to actually breaking. Again, extending these price action pivots trend lines, we can see that any sort of closure below about 104,500 today on Friday will effectively resolve that one to the downside in this case. So I am biased to the downside here. And that actually has an implied move around about 99,500 bucks, give or take a little bit from that number. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't go lower from there, by the way, but you're probably going to get a bounce around that region. By the way, to the upside, as of the current daily, if Bitcoin were to flip back around, you could resolve the daily above about 108 on a closing basis, and that would have an implied move in the short term towards about 114, little over 114 to be fair. Anyways, moving on from there, we saw many higher term timeframes close last night. The 2-day timeframe has once again closed, and what do you know? It's still working below that broken trend line that happened on Monday, by the way, and that was followed by the 3-day. Soon after that, we're going to get another closure tonight, but also working below that price action pivot trend line. And then the 5-day close last night, it actually did not break below. That uprising trend line here for the bottom boundary on the price action pivots, but it is really fucking close here, and it's like shearing sheep off of the cliff or buffaloes or whatever animal they did it with. Maybe they did it with all of them. Maybe they should do it with all of them. Honestly, I fucking hate birds to be fair, but in this case, this is still in play. And on top of that, Bitcoin is very close to initiating the breakdown conditions for this with the next 5-day closure, which of course we just got one last night, so it's not happening anytime soon. But I guess Monday, Tuesday of next week, you will get the next closure. And there is another implied target to be made off of this as well, being that it is a rising channel in this case. We could do something like this, and I'm just going to assume that it's breaking down here. We don't actually know just yet, but that would be pointed a little bit further south in that daily formation that we spoke about earlier. This one close to about 96,000, again, give or take a little bit from that number, something like this perhaps, yeah. But ultimately, going to take a little bit of time to actually confirm this. Now, I do want to update the momentum pivots for these higher term timeframes, as we saw all higher term time, or not all higher term timeframes, but many higher term timeframes close last night, and the 5-day timeframe is going to continue down on stochastic momentum, and the pivot is now 107,350. So the pivot actually came down a little bit, which is not a bad sign, but But, as long as this is angled to the downside alongside everything else that we're going to look at, I'm going to obviously be more biased towards downside. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but here's a 3-day time frame also coming down below 106,850. The 2-day time frame also coming down freshly, by the way, below 108,300, and the daily time frame continues down below 106,750. So all of them moving in the same direction. Daily, 2-day, 3-day, 5-day, even the weekly I think is going to fall through here too at the end of the week, 111, or I'm assuming it closed below 111, but I think that's probably a good bet at this point. And then the 10-day, which closed last night, is actually not below just, or it's not crossing down just yet, but we could draw a regression on these last couple highs from March and then again in December of the past year. And well, we're going to see that level hit, which has called those highs really, really well, assuming that Bitcoin does close the next 10-day time frame, which will literally happen in another 10 days, below 103,250. So a lot of things working in the same direction there, which does make me think that we're going to see resolution in this next week of price action, basically the last week of June. Or is it the last week of June? Kind of, I guess. I mean, there's one day in Monday, the week following. But anyways, back on topic here. Let me get back to my notes. And yes, we got that. Okay. Also on the topic of higher probability to the downside, we did see the 5-day time frame, which does have bearish divergence coming off of this last high. In fact, I think the 10-day time frame has it as well. So not only do you have bearish divergence from this high from March of 2024 to this high, the December highs and the January highs of 2025, we also have what would be another high right here. And that'll be your fourth sort of strike on that bearish divergence. On the 5-day time frame, you have the same divergences present. However, you even have one in the more recent times between the high of 21st of May versus the high of 5th of June, this high versus this high right here, respectively. Now, you could argue that move's maybe already played mostly out, but the next target would be somewhere down around that yellow moving average, which is 99,400 or 99,400. So, if Bitcoin does come down around there, again, probably looking for at least a bounce on the first pass. But here's the thing, even if Bitcoin does come down to 100,000, 95,000, maybe even, $90,000, I don't fucking know. No one fucking knows, to be fair, but it's still a higher low on the higher term time frame. So I'm not super concerned with this for the long term just yet. I mean, Bitcoin was vertical since April, right? It can afford a pullback after what was a 50% move. I mean, for fuck's sake, I don't think it's too crazy to be expecting, something resembling at least a decent pullback, 15% or so, after a move like this over the course of just over a month. But hey, other people have different ideas. Fair enough. Again, I'm happy to get massively fucking bullish, put the bull horns on, dance around, I guess, if Bitcoin can get back above that Monday high. I mean, that's about as obvious as it gets to me. But moving on from there, we still have this setup that we brought up in yesterday's video. This is the 10-day HPDR, and the 10-day HPDR is very interesting to me here because anytime that we've seen volatility represented by the BBWP indicator contract, we've seen, and price is also away from the median, which naturally it will be during those times. When it's extreme going into contraction phase, we do see at minimum a test back down towards the median. Given enough time. I mean, given enough time can be, a month, by the way. I mean, like it was over here on this iteration and as it was on the most recent one, which was a downside play back onto the upside. But in this case, volatility is not very likely. It is quite literally contracting aggressively right there. And the median as of right now is 96,200. So we have multiple things kind of pointed down around there. At minimum, I would be looking for Bitcoin to kind of make a reconnect with that. I think that it likely will happen within the next 10 days. And yeah, that's basically between now and the end of the month. But I don't think you're going to see too much more than that, honestly, unless it ends up happening to the upside. Again, I think that's less likely here, but I made my conditions clear as to what I'd be looking for if I was to jump back on the upside. But overall, that's pretty much all I got for Bitcoin. Just continuation of this long thread of analysis that we've been having for quite some time now. Taking a lot of patience, but that's what typically happens during these times, right? It's like first it fucking bores you, then first they bore you, then they shake you. But yeah, we're coming into the end of June now. There are a few concerning things, I guess, but it all depends upon how the monthly does close. Bitcoin could still be in a strong position here. We shall see. Only time will tell, and we got another 10 days left to wait. On top of that, we can go over here to the quantum wave bands. It looks like we haven't gotten a trade since we last spoke about it, but just very, very quickly and very, very briefly here. This one actually did have a pretty nasty loss recently. This was on Tuesday, opening somewhere around like 106.8, closing over here at almost 105. Yeah, so not great on that one, but that was preceded by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins in a row. Not fucking bad. Anyways, my reminder to anyone who is using the quantum wave bands that, hey, it is the long-term equity curve that we are interested in here. You are going to take losses. Of course, any strategy is going to lose, but the idea here is that over time, it produces net positives rather than net negatives. That's the key. And of course, if you want to try it out, you can try it out for free. You don't even need a fucking code or nothing like that. There's a link in the description below for Teachable. Just find your way to the quantum wave bands, and you can have it as soon as, like literally as soon as you just press a button. And again, it's free for 7 days. Try it out, see if it's for you, see if it's not for you. You make the decision for yourself. I should also let you know, because this is a quiet time, and I assume the people who are tuning in right now you're probably like me. You probably have very little social life, and you're a magic internet money nerd. Something that I've been working on over the past year now has been a massive overhaul and update for the Trade Like a Quant program, which is my one educational program that I do have at this point. And I'm working on incorporating every angle of the most important concepts that I've learned over my full career related to trading, like more specifically trading. I'm also going to add in other content, or I have added in other content, although I haven't made it live just yet, that relates to psychology, mindset, these sort of things. And I'll be including a tool at some point as well. And yes, it will come with a pretty decent price raise, actually. I mean, right now I think it's about just under $600, and we're going to raise it up probably 50% or more. But just so you know in advance, that will be there for you. And of course, it's well, actually, no, you can't try that one out for free. Oh, fuck. You're fucked then. You're fucked then, buddy. But kidding. Anyways, I'm going to put the final finishing touches on it, I think within this next month. And then I will make all of the overhaul changes live. Until then, it'll remain unchanged in the way that, anyone who's had access to it has seen it. But in about a month from now, I'll make a major announcement alongside that price change. And, well, you'll see for yourself. The content will basically double. It'll basically double, maybe even a little bit more. And like I said, we'll add some tools. Anyways, I'll leave things right there. As always, I want to wish everyone the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.